Most people think the Bible names dozens of angels. It does not. Only 3 angels get an actual name in the entire Bible. Not 7 archangels, not a whole squad with matching titles. 3. Once you know who they are, you will never read an angel story the same way again. Stick around, because by the end of this video you will know every named angel in Scripture, what they did, and why most of what you have heard about them is wrong. So here is the real question. If angels show up constantly in the Bible, why does it name almost none of them? That is exactly what we are about to figure out. Angels appear all over Scripture, from Genesis to Revelation, showing up in more than 100 separate passages. Most of them stay anonymous. They show up, deliver a message, fight a battle, or protect someone, then disappear without ever giving a name. The 3 named angels we are covering today show up mainly in 2 parts of the Bible, the book of Daniel and the New Testament books of Luke, Jude, and Revelation. Daniel wrote his book roughly 600 years before Jesus, during a time when God's people were captives in a foreign empire far from home. Luke wrote his gospel to explain the story of Jesus clearly and carefully to a non-Jewish audience who needed the background filled in. Jude wrote a short, urgent letter warning the early church about false teachers who had quietly slipped into their gatherings. Revelation was written by the Apostle John near the end of the 1st century, from exile on the island of Patmos, to encourage persecuted believers with a vision of God's ultimate victory. Different authors, different centuries, same 3 names repeating across the entire story. Let's start with the most famous one, Michael. His name means "who is like God," and that is not a random label. It is a name built to remind people that no one compares to God, not even the highest angel in the room. Michael first appears in the book of Daniel, in a story that starts with silence. Daniel had been praying and fasting for 3 straight weeks, and no answer came, no sign, nothing. Then a heavenly messenger finally shows up and explains the holdup. He says a hostile spiritual force, tied to the kingdom of Persia, blocked him from reaching Daniel for the full 21 days. Daniel 10:13 puts it this way: "The prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, but lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me." Michael steps in as backup. He is called a chief prince, which is Bible language for a high-ranking angel with real authority. A few verses later, in Daniel 10:21, Michael is called your prince, meaning he has a specific assignment watching over Israel. Daniel 12:1 goes even further. It calls Michael the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. In plain terms, Michael's job is protecting Israel. Fast forward to the New Testament. Jude 9 gives us a strange detail. Michael gets into a dispute with the devil over the body of Moses. The text does not explain why. It just says Michael refused to throw insults, even at Satan, and instead said, "The Lord rebuke thee." That shows real restraint, even under provocation. Then in Revelation 12, Michael leads an army. Verse 7 says Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, identified as Satan himself. Michael wins. The dragon gets thrown down. Every time Michael shows up, the pattern repeats: conflict, protection, and victory. He is not the angel who whispers comfort. He is the angel who shows up when things get dangerous. Now let's talk about Gabriel. Michael's appearances all involve conflict. Gabriel's appearances all involve messages, delivered directly and clearly, with no ambiguity left behind. Gabriel shows up 4 times in the Bible, and every single time he delivers news that changes the direction of someone's life. His first appearance is in Daniel 8. Daniel has just seen a strange, unsettling vision involving a ram and a goat, and he has absolutely no idea what any of it means. Gabriel appears and walks him through it, piece by piece, until the confusing symbols finally make sense. Daniel 8:16 records a voice commanding, "Gabriel, make this man understand the vision." Gabriel's job, right there in the text, is interpreter. In Daniel 9, Gabriel returns and gives Daniel one of the most detailed prophecies in the Old Testament, the 70 weeks prophecy, which many scholars connect directly to the timing of the Messiah. Then Gabriel goes quiet for centuries. He resurfaces in Luke chapter 1, and this time the news is personal. Gabriel appears to a priest named Zechariah and tells him his elderly wife will have a son, John the Baptist. Zechariah doubts it, and Gabriel does not take that well. He says, "I am Gabriel that stand in the presence of God," before making Zechariah unable to speak until the baby is born. 6 months later, Gabriel appears again, this time to a young woman named Mary. He tells her she will give birth to the Son of God. Her response is no doubt it is a practical question about how, since she is a virgin. Gabriel answers her plainly and respectfully. 4 appearances, 4 life-changing messages. Gabriel is not a background character. He is the angel God sends when the news is too important to leave to chance. There is a third named angel, and most people have never even heard of him. His name is Abaddon, also called Apollyon. You find him in Revelation chapter 9. This section of Revelation describes a vision of judgment involving locusts that torment people for 5 months. These are not ordinary locusts. They have a king. Revelation 9:11 names him directly. They had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. Both names mean the same thing: destroyer. Abaddon is Hebrew. Apollyon is Greek. Unlike Michael and Gabriel, this angel is not sent to protect or inform. He leads a force of judgment. Bible scholars debate exactly what Abaddon is, and honestly, the text does not settle the argument for us. Some argue he is a demonic figure, a fallen angel ruling that part of the abyss on his own terms. Others argue he is a judgment agent, operating under God's authority, since nothing happens in Revelation without God allowing it first. Either way, the text treats him as a real, named figure with real authority in that scene, not just a symbol or a metaphor. He proves that not every named angel in the Bible is on the side you would automatically expect. So why does any of this matter for your actual life? Michael, Gabriel, and Abaddon show 3 different sides of how the spiritual world works, according to Scripture. Michael shows up when there is a fight worth having. That is a reminder that protection is real, even when you cannot see it happening around you right now. Gabriel shows up when God has something important to say. That is a reminder that God still communicates clearly, even into ordinary lives, like a priest's or a teenage girl's, not just famous ones. Abaddon shows up when judgment is due. That is a reminder that actions and outcomes are connected, even when it feels like nothing is being tracked or noticed. Picture someone stuck waiting on a decision they cannot control, a diagnosis, a job application, a relationship that feels stalled. If you have ever felt like you were praying into silence, remember that Daniel felt that too, for 3 straight weeks, before Michael ever showed up. If you have ever felt like your life was too small or too ordinary for anything meaningful to happen to you, remember that Mary was a teenager in an unremarkable town before Gabriel arrived with the biggest news in human history. These are not abstract theology points meant to stay in a textbook. They are patterns worth watching for in your own week. Delay does not mean absence. Small circumstances do not mean small significance. And nothing you do happens without consequence, whether you notice it or not. Let's clear up the confusion people usually have about this topic, because most of it comes from outside the actual text. First, people assume Raphael and Uriel are named somewhere in the Bible, usually because they have heard the names in movies, art, or church tradition. They are not. Raphael appears in the Book of Tobit, and Uriel shows up in other Jewish writings from around the same period, but neither book made it into the Protestant Bible as we know it today. Catholic and Orthodox traditions include some of these texts, known as the Apocrypha, but a standard Protestant Bible will not contain Raphael or Uriel anywhere inside it. Second, people think Lucifer is a named angel, specifically Satan's original name, before his fall. That idea comes from Isaiah 14:12, which in the King James Version reads, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning?" Here is the problem. In context, this passage is mocking the king of Babylon, not describing a literal angel by name. The Hebrew word translated Lucifer, Hellel, simply means shining one, or morning star. Later, Christian tradition connected this poetic insult to Satan's fall from heaven, and the idea stuck, but the name Lucifer never actually appears as a proper name for a fallen angel anywhere else in Scripture. Third, people assume every personal guardian angel has a specific name assigned to it. The Bible never gives names to personal guardian angels. Jesus mentions in Matthew 18:10 that children have angels who see the face of God, but he never names a single one of them. So the next time someone tells you their guardian angel has a specific name, you now know exactly where that idea does not come from. Let's bring this all together. The Bible names exactly 3 angels: Michael, the protector who fights for God's people; Gabriel, the messenger who delivers news that changes everything; and Abaddon, the angel tied to final judgment. That is the complete list. Everything else you have heard, Raphael, Uriel, a named Lucifer, comes from outside sources, not Scripture itself. Remember the question from the start of this video. Why does the Bible barely name any of its angels? The answer turns out to be simple. The Bible does not focus on building a long list of famous angels. It keeps the attention on God. The few angels who do get named only get named because their mission mattered enough to record. That is the real point here. It is never really about the angel. It is always about who sent them. Before next week's video, go read Daniel 10 for yourself and picture that 3-week wait. Then tell me in the comments which of these 3 angels surprised you the most, Michael, Gabriel, or Abaddon. If this cleared up something you always wondered about, subscribe, because next week we are breaking down another Bible topic people get wrong all the time.